Have you ever wanted to make a website that is fast, stylish, loyal, and won't run away with its yoga instructor, but could if it wanted to? Stick around and I'll show you how I went about creating this masterpiece in under a day of work without breaking the bank. I'm Sam, the founder, co-founder, alpha, and omega of Sam.Land, frequent survivor of tummy aches. I've been developing for almost 20 years, but my code doesn't look a day over 3, and so can yours. All of this code is available now for your perusal and ridicule at absolutely no cost to you in this life or the next. So with all of that out of the way, let's get started. To remake Sam.Land, let's look at some of the reasons why. It should be easy to publish to. More critical than the others is I lost the source code for version 1 of Sam.Land. I may have got overzealous with clearing up my GitHub. That's on me. What must it be able to do? Well, it must be easy to update. That's auto deploy, so I can just push it. Ideally something like I can just use Git for my version control, and I can use Markdown. I want to have some cool factor, same way the Sam.Land did. How? Well, I guess that's the fun part to figure out. One of the first decisions I need to make is how I'm going to build this, or what framework I'm going to use. Seeing as I want it to be easy, and I don't worry about needing to update it online, I'm fine to just handle that, update it to GitHub. I'm looking at using Astro, so haven't used it before. It's got good documentation. Let's have a look. Let's grab that. So I'm in a new folder here. Tutorial, basic. I'm just going to use the blog, install dependencies. Yes, initialize new Git repository. Sure, we're going to want to use that later. This will take a little moment. All right, sweet. So now we can cd into tutorial. We're on the master branch. Ooh, naughty. Let's have a look. Run. Okay, let's have a little look at the file system too. So if I come in, open this, hello astronaut. Okay. Works. Now, so it's got pretty nice styling. Nice basic start. And some style guide, which is going to be useful. I'm going to hop back to here and let's have a quick look at what we've got here. So we've got our package.json. One of the things that you might want to do, and I know I had to, is I want to test this on my phone. In here, I came in and added the host. So what that gave me is if I stop this and I run the dev command again, it will run it with host, and now I can access it on my local network on my phone, which is super useful. So let's have a look at the source. So constants, so this is our title. Not in your hands. I love that. Let's go. Descent. All right, cool. So it's updating here in the title and it's updating here on the nav. Let's have a look at some of our pages. We've got our index. So that seems to be, our hello astronaut page. Basic text here. Nothing crazy. We've got the about page. Cool. Just HTML. Again, like I wanted something really simple. Let's have a look at where layout takes us. Okay, so we've got this layouts and we've got this blog post. All right, this is what our blog posts are going to look like. So if we come over to here and we click on a blog post, so we've got that hero, date, got the title, date, got that last updated, we've got the title, which is coming in from the props. Okay, so we pass props in some way. We've got in here, we've got pages, we've got index. Okay, we've got this base head, which is being passed site title from constants, coming to base head. All right, this is going at the top of our HTML page. It will get passed in images. All right, so it's got a default, but you can pass in a different image and title and description. So that's great. We've got our footer component. Okay. That's what's appearing at the bottom of every page. So that is your name. And let's go for this header. All right, so that's where we've got our nav bar with the icons and the links to social. And again, you can have styling custom per page. And these are all done in components. So you've got pages, can have layouts. Pages are made up of components. And then we've got content, which are our blog posts. All right, and then this is how the routing is working. Yeah, I say routing, not routing. I think I know where we can look at getting started. Okay, so now we've got it running. Let's make some room for us to work with. All right, so we'll delete that. Let's make a new file, landing hero, and let's just quickly throw in some importing that. Right. Okay, got our server running. Let's refresh. Let's have a look. Sweet, we've got our hey. So next thing, let's make this cool. So I'm still big into what my version 1 of the website used to look like. So here it's 3D, it's very retro synthwave. You can move around, and that's done by Three.js. So awesome library, come in, some amazing examples here. And one of the ones that I really like the look of was this one. So this is Gcode. That's the code used when you're running a 3D printer. And obviously we want to have some text on there. So in here, there's a geometry text one. So let's work on trying to bring this into our web app. So in here, I can grab the source code. I want to grab, let's have a look. So I'm going to get all of this code here, copy that, and let's come into our landing hero, and let's paste this in. Okay, cool. So here we're importing Three.js, which we haven't installed yet. So let's do that. So I'm going to come in, npm install 3 and save it. So now let's have a look at in here. Okay, so we can see that we've got this loader and we need this benchy. Fortunately, because all these examples are in GitHub, we can easily find it. If I just hit T, I can search and I can find benchy. Cool, and let's just download it. Yeah, assets, models. Let's save that there. Okay, so it's 1.8 megabytes. This is just to get us started. We're going to replace it with what we want to. Okay, so for now, we want to change this to, where's that going to be? So that is in our public. So that will be /assets/models, and that is benchy. So we've got it installed. Let's see what we've got in here. Okay, so we see failed to with module relative. Okay, so it's struggling with the way our paths are. Let's see how we're importing that. Let's make it not type module. Let's just make it script, and now we have it. So we can get rid of this hey. At the moment, it's being just appended onto the body. Instead, let's ask our editor, change the landing hero div to be the canvas. All right, let's accept that. Awesome. So now we've got our Gcode in a browser working with the 3D, and we're able to move it. Let's look at changing this asset out. So this is Gcode loader, but first things first, we want a new 3D model. So let's check out how we're going to do it. Tool I use, wrote in by Hyper 3D. I recommend it. It's sweet. It's got a generous free tier. At least it's worked for me. There are new methods of being able to generate 3D models, though, without being, you know, a true artist. Now, if you've got that skill, please go ahead, do that. I personally don't, so I just wanted to use a tool to make this quicker. For an example, I've come in, floating island with mountains and a waterfall. So it generates an image, and then you can refine it, and then it generates a 3D model from that. So this is what we've ended up coming up with. For this, I've just downloaded you can download the object or the STL. But yeah, I see that it's not perfect. It's kind of got a floating tree. It's not crazy complex, but I also don't want it to be too crazy because it's just kind of going to be a background element to support that text. Let's go ahead. So we'll get this downloaded, and we're going to convert it into Gcode and then load it into our browser. For that, I've just downloaded Ultimaker Cura, and in here, I'm just going to come in and grab the object file, bring it in here. Probably want to rotate this round. So let's bring that to 90 degrees so it's up here and floating. Don't worry about this red. We're not actually going to print this out. From here, we can slice it and we'll get Gcode. But I know that what gets shown are the layer height. I want to change that layer height. into here, and I've changed it to about 0.6 millimeters. So if I hit slice, save to disk, I'm going to come in model. Let's just call this island. Let's go save. And now we're going to go into our code and let's change this to island. Hit save, come have a look at it. And okay, it's there. It's a little hard to get around. We can look at changing the size or changing where the camera is. For me, I think what I'm going to do is probably a mix of both. Probably want this to be about a third of the size that it currently is. So set to uniform. Let's get it down to about 3000. So let's do that again. Save to disk. And there we can see it was 12 megabytes. Write it. And now let's see what we've got. Okay, cool. So that's looking a bit better. And the file size should have gone down. Where we want to position it, we want it to always be kind of centered, right? And so this is the X. Let's say if we do a save here, have a look at it. Okay, that's about center. We set this to 0. Oh, 0. It's actually probably pretty good to have it back at about the 20. And then maybe here, let's change this to about 80. Again there, we're getting there. We're going the wrong way. I want to zoom in. There we go. So that's kind of cool, right? If you've made it this far and you've learned something, please leave a comment. And if you haven't learned anything, then please teach me something. Now that we've got our island floating, let's add some text to it. So if we come to our Three.js examples, we've got this 3D one. Now this has a lot of extra things that we don't necessarily need, but it should be able to send us on the right direction. So we know we need a font loader, text geometry. Come down to here. See, this is a lot of extra stuff. We're going to need a typeface and then build a mesh with the text given to it and the material. So take the geometry plus the material. We've got a mesh. So let's look at adding that. So first things first, let's grab a typeface. Let's grab Helvetica Bold, save that into our fonts folder. And now we can go into here. Now that we've got this, let's add 3D text saying Sam.Land. Right, so let's see what it's going to add for us. Okay, yep, there we go. That's that geometry it wants to add. It wants the loader for the font. It's making a mesh. Okay, looks like there it's also adding some lighting. Let's apply. And what do we have? Okay, we got Sam.Land. Oh, it's a bit big. So let's go tweak what we've just got.
You have questions, I hear you ask. Like, Sam, why are you looking at the source code and then using AI? And to that I say, you don't understand the current state of AI. Or you're an AI yourself. Show me your papers!
Height. So height is not a property. It hallucinates somewhat. Text material. So actually, yeah, sure, transparent wireframe. We'll take that and then let's have a look. Okay, so we've got the wireframe working. We've got the compute bounding box and we've got it here in the middle, but we see it is floating, so it's aligned nicely in the middle, but it's floating a bit. Let's bring that down. So if I change this to about 10, where do we get? Oh, a little too low. So let's just go a little bit higher than that. All right, I want to be able to change the color. But if I come in here and try and select different color. Let's get rid of this specular. Get rid of this lighting. It's meant to be in like this neon space, so we don't want the light. All right, but we see now it's gone dark. And that's because it's lost the light. So instead of a Fung material, if we just make this a basic. Great, now I've got Sam.Land. It's a little hard to read it. So let's look at changing the color of the background island here and see if we can tweak the camera to get it more to what we want. So this is what we've got when we load. Let's make it a little bit better for us. And we also want to use our local font that we downloaded. Let's go, so /fonts, bold, save that. All right, sweet. So that's now running from our local. Okay, so let's look at changing this island. So we've got this island included here. Let's just ask our cursor, change the lines to purple, and we'll hit save. And let's see what that does. It has not done any us any kind of good. So instead of that, the Gcode lines purple. We know that that's not going to work. Does not work. There we go. Okay. Let's try that, shall we? If child.material. And there we go. It just needed a tweak there to set the material for each child. Let's also look at change the opacity to 0.3. All right, see what we get now. Now we can see our Sam.Land nice and strong, and we've got this purple flowing island. Awesome. We can see what we want, and we can change the colors as we please. Okay, so now that we've got our text and our flowing island, but it's just floating in the abyss, let's add some background to it to kind of let it feel like it's in space. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to generate a star field. So let's see what we've just got there. We've got some buffer geometry, some point material, got vertices. Okay, we're making about 10,000 of them. We're putting them in random space. All right. So we can see we can drag around and we've now got a starry background. Oh my goodness, that is so much easier than when I used to have to build this. Thank you, AI. Got our cool star field and we've got our text. Let's add some effects to the scene. So if we come in and pray that we can get help here, make the scene have a glow effect. All right, so it's going to do an Unreal Bloom pass. Okay, it's making a composer, and then it renders the composer instead. All right, now I've got a glow. Let's add some animation to give it that initial wow factor. So come in and let's just be prompters. Add a camera animation starting from Z0 to Z, let's say 100. All right, so it's making this animate camera and it's just gonna update the position every render frame. Animation duration, 3 seconds. Let's see what we get. Ooh, with an effect as well. Perfect. All right, so now we've got our intro animation, we've got our glow, we've got our text. I think that's looking pretty awesome. Let's look at clearing up the rest of the site. Got our navigation here, our blog, and our about. Now it's all a little white, and that kind of does not go with the aesthetic of the site. So let's look at changing that. Okay, so let's remove the social links. Need them at least for now. That look like sweet. And let's look at changing some stuff. So I'm adding the global CSS into the context here. So Cursor understands how I'm trying to do these changes. Let's say make the nav bar sticky with a black background. Kind of black, it's using our variable black. And if we look at scrolling here, we see that it sticks. And if we come to our other pages, we can see these aren't black. So let's look at changing that. Change the website background to black. Let's look at what it's trying to do here. Cool, so we're just getting rid of these gradients and we're going to change it to a variable. And we're changing the color, which we didn't tell it to white. Gray black, gray dark on top of black. You're not going to be able to see it that well. So it's really trying to help us out here and there. And it's changing the colors for all of our headers. All right, cool. So I think though this blue does not make sense. So let's change that ourselves. So if we come into here, I'm just going to click. And yep, sure, that seems about right. And let's do something similar here. So we're making a accent dark, accent color. Let's see what we've got now. Cool, so we've got this underground bar. Okay, we've got the highlight happening and we've got this text. Now, I don't want the tile of this to be the accent color. I think we could go with a nicer color. Let's look here. Blog post, page, index, title. But if we come in, we see, oh, that is not what we want. Okay, so let's go for gray light. Let's see what we've got now. All right, sweet. That's looking good to me, except this text. I can't really read it. Let's see our other text here. We can kind of read that, so that's okay. Let's go have a look at here. Come in, and if we look down here, we can click on color, and it will show us what CSS it's inheriting from, and we see that it is gray dark in the pros. Let's go fix that. For pros, okay, you see that it's got this dark gray, and if we come here, we can see the P is just for styling. So let's change this to, it already wants to help us out. Sweet. Now we can read all that pretty easily. Got our sticky header. We just want to change that footer. I say, let's have a look. Yeah, let's remove that social and let's change that background. We can just get rid of that. Change this to, okay, gradient. Let's just make this gray dark, and let's make the color. Let's see what that looks like for us. Yeah, color, gray light, background, linear gradient. That's not what I'm looking for. Just a simple color will work for us. Our website's looking pretty good. Change the content however you want, but let's go back to our motivations. Place to our digital and physical creations, refresh the website, and well, most important, I lost the source code. So let's not do that. And then we want to focus on getting this deployed. Okay, so to help illustrate how this is going to work, I've made an incredibly detailed diagram. Please follow along. So we'll be developing locally. Could be me, could be you, could be anyone, could be a lizard. They're going to put the code into GitHub. That's going to be our source control. From there, the code is going to be shipped over to AWS Amplify. That's going to run those build commands. It's going to statically generate the website, and it's going to push that code to CloudFront. Now, the masses, they're going to come along and be like, we want to see your stuff. They're going to put in Sam.Land in the browser, and that is going to point to CloudFront. Now, we don't need any backend servers because, like I said earlier, this is all statically generated, so there's no need to do any extra processing. Keeps it nice and simple for us. Let's make this work. So if I come in, I can go to repository. Let's do new tutorial Sam.Land, and you know what? We'll make it public for all of you. Go in and hit create. We don't need to create a new repository because we've already been running with one when we first did the setup, but we want to add our branches. And let's open our console. If I come in, I do git remote add. So that's going to add a remote origin for this Git repo. We're going to create the branch main, and we're going to upload everything to the branch as main. Okay, now that we've done that, we should be able to come in here, hit refresh, and now we see that we've got all of our code here. And as long as we don't delete it, then we shouldn't have to remake it. So we've got a website that we like. We've got it in GitHub. It's time to get it out to the world. So for that, we're looking at deploying our website. Astro has a lot of options. Netlify, Vercel, these are all big ones. I'm going to look at using AWS, and specifically AWS Amplify. Why? Because I'm lazy, but also I'm used to AWS. So I'm going to come in, look at deploying using GitHub. I now can authorize it. And I'm going to do only select branches, and I'm going to look at just doing it for tutorial. You can, if you want, allow access to all of your repositories, but for now I don't need that. So we're verified. Now I can see my repository. Awesome. And I can see my branch main. It's not a monorepo, so I don't have to worry about that. Build settings, npm run build, and then output the dist folder. Okay, that's great. It's already picked up on what we're going to want to do. For that, let's test that locally. npm run build. So whilst that's running, which is already done, let's look at our commands here. So we've got build, which is Astro build, and we'll see in here that we now have this dist folder. But let's see what that looks like. So let's do npm run preview. So that's going to serve that local folder. Let's have a look at what that looks like. Great. So now if we come back, we can be, yes, we want you to run a build, then use this dist folder and advanced settings like build and variables. We're fine. It's all pre-computed and in our code. It's all static. So let's do save and deploy. Now this might take a little bit. It's going to be deploying your app, which means it's going to get the code from GitHub. It's going to run the build and then it's going to put it out onto the internet. So you can see we've got a domain. Now this isn't the, sexy sleek custom domain. You can add that. It's pretty simple. We'll look at doing that next. So one of the great advantages to using a tool like this is now when we want to do an update, you can see that it's linked to this auto build, and that is pointing to the main branch. Whenever you put a new commit onto the main branch, this is going to pick up on it automatically with webhooks, and it's going to do a build and put out that update for you. So if I come in and look at this domain, there's our website. So now let's make sure that we can make changes to it. Okay, Sam.Land, mouse in your mouth. Maybe not what we want. Here to stay, first thing that came to mind. I'm going to come in here, add the commit. We're going to sync these changes with main. All right, so now if I come into here, this is our GitHub. We're going to see we got an update just now. Go into our deployments. We can see now it's just picked up on that update. It's going to do a deployment. And if we come into here, mouth in your mouth, that's a meta description. So that's deployed. If I come in here, look now, we can find that's now updated to here to stay. Awesome. So we've got website, deploying it. Let's go into here, change our about. Probably don't need it to be lorem ipsum. Let's do, why write our own? Who needs to give real info? Something about pride in building, probably. And we can come in and we can do the same as we did earlier. Now we know this is going to go and run a new deploy, which we've got here. We've got the website deployed and it's working on Amplify, but we want to change that domain to be custom. So we're going to go into hosting, custom domains, add domain. Let's add tutorial.sam.land. So I'm using the subdomain because I don't want this to take over my main domain. And let's hit check domain availability. So it says it's not deployed in Route 53. It actually is, but in a different AWS account. But I'm going to show you these steps that should apply any domain provider that you're using. So let's go into configure it. So we only want a tutorial.sam.land, and we'll say that they can manage the certificate. So now it's going to start going through and creating the resources it needs, and then it's going to need us to go and make some changes on our DNS. So let's just wait for it to show what we need to do. So it's asking us to add a CNAME with the value hostname of this. Okay, and type CNAME and the value of validation. So let's go in and look at doing that. So let's create a record. So tutorial. I'm gonna get this whole, and it should be a CNAME reference. And now let's go in and create another record of the hostname tutorial. And this is where it's going to point now the CNAME as well. Let's create records. It's pending. This might take a second. So what it's trying to do here is prove that we own the domain so it can set up SSL for the HTTPS. This is just going to help you with SEO. It encrypts the data. And you can see also here that it's actually deployed to CloudFront, which is great because now we're making use CDN. So this will provide the caching. We now have our SSL configuration. Now we're moving on to domain activation. And in the meantime, we'll come and change our values in our Astro config. Change this to here. Okay, so that's up. It should now be deploying. Great, so we've got that deployment going out. Okay, so it says it has completed. That took about 15 minutes. Let's go to it. All right, So we can see that we've got, this is all happening on the tutorial.Sam.Land website. Come into our blog, make updates, change the about. So that kind of concludes what I wanted to get up to on this tutorial. I might look at making some tweaks to it, but it's working, it's up there, you can go do the same. Gosh, haven't we been through a lot together? The ups, the downs, the Gcode, the text, bit where we deployed it out into the world like proud parents. Thanks for sticking around. If you make something inspired by this, I'd love to see it. Drop a comment, send a smoke signal, mail a postcard. The code's free on GitHub, link in the description. Huge thanks to all the brilliant people that build and maintain these tools. Thanks again, and catch you in the next one. Peace.